Hello, and welcome to the Kangaroo Leadership Podcast, sponsored by MaxFab Consulting, the podcast that embodies the spirit of progress and resilience by showcasing inspiring leaders and entrepreneurs who exemplify the remarkable traits of kangaroos. Those traits of adaptability, agility, courage, resilience, empathy, vision, authenticity, and continuous learning are what we want to find in our leaders and what we're going to bring to you today. So sit back, get ready to enjoy another episode of the Kangaroo Leadership Podcast. Hey, welcome back to the Kangaroo Leadership Podcast. As I always tell you, I like to find people out in the world that are inspirational, that are kangaroo leaders that have taken what life has given them, turned lemons into lemonade, or taken their situation and have an inspiring story. And not only are they leading the world, but they're leading themselves. And so I got a really cool guest with you today that's got a heck of a story. I'm going to let him tell us about him, and then we're going to go from there. And as you know, we'll pick out the little traits of the kangaroo and how they manage their lives and what Sam has to offer. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Sam Mitchell. Sam, thanks for being on with us. You're an inspiration to me.
All right, man. So hello, everyone. My name is Sam Mitchell. I run the podcast, Autism Rocks and Rolls. It's a podcast about autism and how we cope with daily struggles that you may not understand. Through the podcast, it's grown so much, I developed sponsors, a board of 8. I'm also an event planner in Indianapolis, where I'm from. I also do motivational speaking. I've spoken in Oklahoma, Orlando 3 times, Canada twice, Stuart, Florida, and Washington, D.C. But through the podcast, I'm also trying to change the stigma of autism because I've been through so much BS in my life, such as getting excluded and bullying for doing nothing. And it's haunted me some days because I have severe trust issues and crippling anxiety.
Sure. So how old are you, Sam? When did you graduate high school?
I'm 22. I graduated in 2021, but I'm in college right now studying broadcasting, and I have one more semester left. So I'm going to finish up this semester, then next semester will be my last one.
Yeah, and then when you graduate and go out into the world, what do you want to do?
Radio station is what I'm thinking.
Sure. You want to own it eventually, right?
Sure, why not? We give it a shot, see where it goes.
Oh, there you go. Well, radio, with everything that's gone on technological-wise, it's kind of funny that radio's really hung on and people still appreciate radio, especially, some of the XM stations and those kind of things. So, yeah, there's a lot to be said there. So there's a lot there to kind of unpack, Sam, but why don't you tell us where you grew up, about your mom and dad or your parents, or at least that relationship in your life, and then maybe you can roll into some of your challenges early in life.
Like I said, I'm in Indiana, southern, central-ish, so definitely lived in the country for most of my entire life. I've had supportive family since day one. I'm grateful to have it because I know lots of children and college students and adults don't have that privilege. Grateful to have that privilege, but the challenges I've had, gosh, man, there's a lot. Sometimes I do have a temper on me, so I got some anger issues. I'm not going to lie to you there. And my patience level sometimes is intolerable. So, for example, I'm actually pretty patient with most things. Like, surprisingly, I'm very patient with children and animals. When animals act up, it's like I'm not going to, yell at them off the bat or yell at a kid off the bat. We're just going to talk about it. But electronics, that's my kryptonite. Example is right before we were recording, we had a technical issue clearly, and you didn't hear it, but I may have dropped an F-bomb.
Right. Well, and that's, you know what, so talk to people that don't understand the spectrum. Talk to them where you kind of align with the spectrum, and then talk to them how being on the spectrum actually predisposes you to anger issues and patience issues and those type of things. And how we navigate that. A lot of us don't have people that are autistic in our life. And so when you meet somebody that's autistic, it can make us uncomfortable just as much as it can make you uncomfortable.
Right. So a lot of people on the spectrum do have aggression issues too. So I may have made some holes in the walls in my life, but not do that much anymore. It's more just blabbing out bleeps. But what's frustrating with the spectrum-wise is, and why I'm doing what I'm doing, is when people think of autism, they think of one certain population of autism. And it's like the people who have the mindset of 3-year-olds, who can't go to the bathroom on their own, who can't brush their teeth on their own, who are wheelchair-bound because they just can't walk properly, or they have to live at home their whole entire life. Well, my opinion is we think those type of people with autism can do something, but here's our problem too. People are ignoring a certain population, my population, who are in the middle of the road who, okay, they can get a job, but they have to live with their parents for their life because if they try to budget a check, pretty disastrous. Or those on the higher scale who have the mindset of maybe just like a tad bit developmentally delayed like myself, who probably realistically has the mindset of a 19-year-old or a 20, 21-year-old instead of a 22-year-old, who's just maybe a tad delayed and can still get a job, can do academics, but socially, it's probably the mindset of maybe a 10-year-old or the skill set at least. But I can still do it. There's just some hard times navigating the waters.
So talk to us about some things. Give us some examples of challenges you've had, and I want you to do it in the context of those of us that are listening, that tomorrow we're going to come across somebody that is high functioning but on the spectrum, and we may be able to better identify it after you've worked with us here and talked to us. But also, what do you need from people that aren't on the spectrum? What do you need when you're in these situations, and you might come at it with a 10-year-old mentality? How do we help Sam navigate that?
Explanation and patience. You need to be patient with me and see that he's not being rude. This is just him being autistic because this is the way his mind thinks. Or sometimes I've opened my mouth and I've said either the wrong thing at the wrong time at the wrong place, and I didn't know. Well, you're like, dude, probably shouldn't have said that. I've had to do that. I've had to do that with a lot of my friends. I have a couple of friends right now who are working on me with social cues. Sure, a great example of that is the other day, someone was presenting on a PowerPoint. They weren't really doing it. They were practicing, and I was asked not to talk. Okay, I can respect that. Okay, we're not talking for a little bit. She's done presenting, and I don't know if we're allowed to talk anymore because I was asked not to talk. So I politely asked, can I talk now? And the poor are laughing because they're like, oh gosh, because they know I struggle with social cues. So that's a story for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair, but they know you're autistic, right?
Yeah.
And you've had the conversation with them. So how do we break that barrier? I mean, you just can't run around, you go into the grocery store and come up to the counter and go, I'm autistic. You can't just tell everybody, I'm autistic. And even if you did that, Sam, we wouldn't understand, those of us not on the spectrum. Wouldn't even well, I do because I have a medical background and I've worked with autistic people and worked with and for and around autistic people. So I'm blessed to have a little bit better understanding of that. But people that are not familiar with autism, just saying I'm autistic means nothing to them. So what should we be doing? What should we be doing? What do we read? What do we study? What do we learn so that we can better incorporate you into our world?
Well, I mean, that's hard because you need to find updated information online if you can. I want to get a book from the 1930s, 40s, or 50s because it's all talking about, all the negatives. In my opinion, a lot of people think with these organizations out there, we need to avoid the negatives, or we need to show them all the positive, or we need to focus on the negatives. My view is you need to keep it middle. So we need to tell people, for example, okay, yes, your person on the spectrum is probably going to have a meltdown in Walmart because of buzzers going off. But here's what you can do about it. Here's some strategies. Here's some tips to help. Not your child's going to have a meltdown, end of story.
So in my journey with PTSD, there's things that you can't unhear, unsee, and unsmell. And I have probably more issues with seeing and smelling after being a medic. And so I have triggers. And I know that when I have those triggers, there's certain things that I do to help me work through it. Am I perfect at it? No. Do sometimes I lose my stuff a little bit? Sure. Does it get better over time because I work on it? I don't know if that phenomenon is the same. But so talk to me. Because out of everything that's different to us, or odd or bad, or whatever you want to classify it, out of everything, there's always a positive, or 2 or 3 or 10. So tell me, if I was hiring somebody autistic, what are some of the advantages of hiring somebody autistic? What would I do with that person to make them the most successful?
You have to work with them one-on-one sometimes, and you have to treat them like your other employees, show them love and respect like your other employees, but also accommodate them. If they need help, they need help from you. I mean, treat them fairly. But what you can do, too, to really help is give them a chance. If they say sometimes, I got this, and it's not your way, it might be better.
Explain that. I actually understand what you said, but what I want you to tell me, and you already know, is what I want you to tell me is what you're really, really good at, and you're really, really good at it because you're on the spectrum, and people don't give you credit for it.
Right. So what I'm trying to say here is, if an employee, for example, wants to stock the shelves a certain way, and you're like, oh, no, 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 it's got to be this way. Baloney. Let him try it his way first and see if you like it. If you don't, okay, fine, whatever. I'll do it your way. I might complain a little bit, but I'll still do it. However, why not try his way? It might be more organized. People might be able to get the toothpaste easier, and you leave happy.
That sounds like a true story that happened.
It didn't. I just made that up off the spot.
Okay, well, that's great. So are you telling me that the people with autism may have some better organizational skills? They kind of see things, they have an actual extra dimension when they're looking at problem sets?
Yes and no. So they are good at organizing, but they stink at prioritizing. And that's one of my issues. So my issue is like, okay, there's certain things that are important during the day, right? You got to brush your teeth. You got to put on deodorant. You got to go to work. Yeah. But then this extra thing is, okay, I have a plan to go hang out with the boys at this bar or this pub. Right. As someone who's not on a spectrum, you can probably think, oh, okay, this needs to go on the back burner. What's more important is brushing teeth, deodorant, and my work, clearly. Right. My problem is I think that's important too. So it's all equally important instead of this is more important, this is less important. It's all important.
What happens if you can't get one of those things done? What happens to you?
So what I've done is I made a schedule that fills up my day. And what I've done literally is, for me, I will not go to bed until everything on that calendar is completed for the day.
And then you sleep better.
Yeah, to a point. I also have ADHD, so by the end, by some days, it's just like, come on, I just want to go to bed. But it's like, I can't because I know I need to get this done.
Right.
Now, now, obviously, you might say, well, why not move it till tomorrow? Well, to a point, you're right. In some cases, I could, but it's still lingering. I don't like it to linger.
Do you think that's common with most people that have autism?
Yeah, I would say so. That's my thing, too. I don't like to have problems linger. I like to solve it now. Like, when a problem's when a problem's going on, we're not beating around the bush. Right. We're gonna talk about this right now. We're not gonna wait until tomorrow. You know, I get it if we need to cool heads. Okay, fine. But the problem's still lingering. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna give you a day to cool your heads. I'm giving you maximum 15.
That's good. That's actually really good insight. People need to kind of understand that because people could take offense to, you know, even if you had an issue with another person, you go, we're going to talk about this right now. And they'd say, well, no, we need to wait. And you go, no, I'm going to sort it out right now. Well, that's more towards your tendency from being on the spectrum than it is that you're just pushy or brash. So you can get labeled, right?
Yep. As a child, I was very pushy too. And I am still kind of a pushy person, but I try to manage that the best I can.
So I've got a macro question for you here in a second. Talk to me about what happens when you get labeled. What happens when you know that you're being treated unfairly or somebody has put you in a box that you're not fairly in. Talk to me about how you manage that. Or do you just write them off and move on to the next thing?
Well, it depends on the person and the situation. If it's someone I've known for just maybe like, okay, I just met you, but you're still going to label me. All right, whatever, your problem. Brush it off and move on. But if it's someone I know really well, I'm pulling your butt aside, and we're going to talk this out. Like, what's going on?
Right. What kind of answers do you hear when, that's what you described there is at least a low-level confrontation. So you have this confrontation because you want to know what's going on. What do you normally hear from people?
Sometimes it's BS, but then sometimes I'm like, I don't believe you. Tell me the truth. And probably if they're not going to, then I don't tell them, but it's like, I'll end it right there. It's like, okay, you have a nice day now. And then that's my way of saying it's pretty much done, buddy.
When they tell you the truth, what are kind of some of the things they tell you?
Well, I haven't experienced the truth yet. A lot of times it's been BS, and I just let it slide because I know it is. But I haven't had that happen yet when it comes to people who I know real well not telling me the truth. So that's a hard one to answer because it just hasn't happened yet. Maybe when it happens, I'll let you know.
Well, I mean, when people are truthful with people that they love, sometimes they've got to tell them things that they don't necessarily want to hear. So The people that care about you, do they give you honest feedback?
Oh, yes. That is something that helps me tremendously. Honest feedback is just constructive criticism. I'm not a guy who's going to take kindly to, you sucked. Right. Okay, I might take it kind of if you say, you sucked, here's why. What did I do? Tell me so I can fix that.
So if you have somebody in your life or your organization or they actually work for you that's autistic, it's really probably better to be immediate with feedback and to be concise and blunt with them. Is that what you're saying?
To a point, yes. I mean, tell them the truth. I wouldn't be like so blunt where it's like one sorted. was just shorted, I would be making sure that you're blunt, but you give an explanation too.
Sure. Yeah, don't be mean, be kind, and give honest, clear, concise feedback. Yeah, that's good. That's a good tip, because it's hard enough. It's hard enough in a perfect situation to give people negative feedback. None of us like doing it. It's not a natural thing. People that are good at it, sometimes I wonder how their whole makeup is built, because it's just not natural to take other human beings and be critical of them, and, because we all have our own set of issues. So when you start throwing rocks at other people, you better be careful, because they can. There's plenty of rocks that can probably be thrown your way. So that's good. No, that's good feedback. So where you're at, talk to me about. I know when I was a teenager, at least from the time I was 13 till about 17 or even 18, I was kind of a mess. And so I can imagine hormonally and everything, when you're going through that time frame in your life, and then you throw being on the spectrum in the middle of all that, that's got to be pretty difficult.
Oh, I know. 8 to 10, I was a monster. There's a lot of combinations, I think, to it. One was the autism, clearly trying to fit in. Puberty was hitting me at that time span. But then also, I have sleep apnea because my brain can't breathe at night, and I just never got a good night's sleep.
Well, that's huge. And so your parents obviously worked with you to kind of correct those kind of things. And that's a great one-liner for get enough sleep and get enough rest and do those kind of things for those of us that, can do that naturally. Make sure you're getting enough rest, because it's super important. So Sam, if you were the absolute king for the day, king over society, king over the world, or whatever, what are 2 or 3 things that you would change immediately to help people out that are on the spectrum trying to net this non-spectrum world?
Well, I would definitely try to show them. If I was king for the day, hey, that's a bad idea.
Well, you got all the money, all the resources, and if you say it, it's going to happen.
I know. I would definitely try to maybe create more panic-safe rooms where they can safely have meltdowns or have panic attacks if needed.
This is for the listeners. I want to give you this hypothetical. This is what I would ask a congressman or a senator if I was advocating for autism. If I'm walking through a major airport, Chicago, Atlanta, LA, New York, if I'm walking through a major airport, maybe just in one terminal, are there more people in that terminal breastfeeding or autistic? I'll bet you the answer is there's more people that are somewhere on the spectrum autism-wise than there are breastfeeding.
Yep.
However, you can find a place to breastfeed, can't you?
Yeah, you need to find panic rooms in the airport sound like a great idea.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying is, in the airport, there's a place for your service dog to pee. There's a place for you to lactate. There's a lactation room. There's a place for you to go and breastfeed your baby. They have family bathrooms that are set up so that you can change diapers. They have all these type of things, but they don't have what you just described.
Yeah,
and
I know, it's ridiculous.
I would go way out on a limb and say the odds are there's more people walking around the D terminal in Denver, Colorado, or the B terminal, which I know well. The B terminal, there's more people in the B terminal in Denver, Colorado right now with autism than there are breastfeeding.
I know. It's sad.
I get it. And the thing is that until we interact with somebody that's autistic, especially high functioning like you, because the interaction is normal to a point, and then you're like, something's off. And this is to your point about certain things you handle like a 10-year-old. And something's off. And our initial sensory, just who we are as humans, we say, I need to kind of get away from this. So you never get to actually know what's going on. I'm talking about just casual interactions in society. So how do we change that, Sam? How do we become better people for you?
I mean, you just have to answer the question the best of your can, even if you don't know how. I had someone last year ask a question, and they didn't know how to respond. I could see it. It wasn't me, it was someone else. They didn't know how to respond, but you know what? They did the best, and they did respond. Don't be like, okay, just answer us, please.
I think that would be amazing if there was a quiet room. It just said quiet room for autism. And it was just a small room that you could go into just to kind of, get all the, settle your sensory things down. That's amazing. See, there's something, I didn't have that level of awareness, and you brought that up. Okay, so you only gave me one thing. What else are you going to do to change the world for autism and our awareness?
Well, I would definitely say that what we need to do is probably just maybe try to show people, maybe force people in the classroom on social cues of what it's like to be on spectrum, how we interact. What are, as I call it, the 10-year-old habits?
That's awesome. Yeah, I've got a buddy here in town. I've been on this podcast, and this podcast, he's on the spectrum, and and he's just left of normal is what the name of the podcast is. I'm going to send this to him when we're done, and I'm going to see if he'll have you on, because you guys have a great conversation.
Oh, I bet, man.
He does a lot of work, and he works really hard on it. He doesn't like speaking in public and those kind of things, so he just forces himself to do it all constantly to get better at it. Well, so besides finishing school and your podcast, talk to me a little bit about your podcast. Have you published anything? Anything you want us to read? Places we can go find you? To look things up. Is there a way we can support you?
You can find me on your favorite media platforms. I'm not a hard guy to find. If you Google me, something will pop up.
Okay. Just put in Sam Mitchell, or what do we need to put in there?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, Sam Mitchell Autism or whatever, and it'll pop up, huh?
Yep, Autism Rocks and Rolls mainly. That's the thing you need to search up.
Okay, Autism Rocks and Rolls. So for you folks out there, look up Autism Rocks and Rolls. What kind of guests do you have on your podcast?
Well, I've had several wrestlers on. I've had people on with the story. I've had Mick Foley on, Kane, Jake the Snake. I've had Buff Bagwell. I've had Mandy Harvey from Mayor's Got Talent. And then I just had autism advocates and people I met who I think have a great story. Amberly Snyder is a great example. Her story is pretty cool. She was doing barrel racing. Well, unfortunately, she had a truck accident up in January 2010, I think, is when it flipped on her and it left her paralyzed from the waist down. The doctor said, well, you're not going to barrel race again. Well, her answer was, no, I'm going to do everything to go back on that horse. And guess what happened? She got back on the horse and is currently barrel racing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that stuff is powerful. You've had some good guests on too. Well, Sam, what do you got? What do you got for words of wisdom for us? Well, I want you to leave the audience with something to really think about.
Well, I think this isn't just words of wisdom. I think this is the truth. If the world could be nice and not act so stupid, I think we get along so much better, don't you think?
Yeah, explain stupid and then explain nice.
Well, explain stupid. Well, not doing what's wrong, doing what's right. I definitely believe in having fun. I'm not saying you have to walk a straight line all the time. I've goofed off plenty of times and had fun. But just do what's right. And nice, just make someone's day, even if it's a small favor by saying hi. That's the least you can do.
There's a restaurant in Fort Lauderdale, Florida that's called Coconuts. I recommend to go there for not just the food, but just the atmosphere. And their motto that they wear on their shirts, the servers wear on their shirts, just says, be nice. That's the same thing that's written on the doors of the Phoenix Fire Department. Just be nice. So I am in 100% agreement with you on being nice to people. And, nice and kind are kind of synonymous. But if we don't, I'm gonna talk to everybody out there that's not on the spectrum. If you don't take the time to do what Sam and I are doing right now and to learn a little bit about what's going on around you, it's going to set you up for failure and it's going to make you uncomfortable no matter how you navigate the world. I don't care how much you've traveled. I don't care who you know. I don't care what your economic status is. And I don't care if you've got a lot of money or if you've got a lot of education and those type of things. The only way to be able to navigate and in Sam's words, not be stupid and be nice is you have to know, which means you have to ask, which requires courage. And this is a kangaroo trait. To lead in the world, you have to have enough courage to get involved with people like Sam so that you can hear these stories and understand that. Sam said he was fortunate to have a loving family. Not every child with autism has a loving family or both parents, or they come from broken homes. There's all kinds of things that go along with that. So that's a challenge he doesn't have. And everybody with autism, their story is going to be a little bit different. But the similarities, I think it's very powerful that Sam said, I wish I just had a quiet room so that I could not have sensory overload. How hard is that? So we need to think about those things. What do you think of that, Sam?
That sounds great.
Well, I'll tell you, I want people to listen to Sam's podcast. Do you got a LinkedIn page or a Facebook page or those type of things?
Yeah, but it's all on my website, autismrocksandrolls.com. You can find it all there.
And we're going to get everybody to the website. So what else you got for me, buddy? What else you got for the world?
I just thank you for your time. I had a blast, man. Thank you for letting me come on. I appreciate you taking the time for me.
Yeah, well, you be blessed. We're better off as listeners and as human beings for having you here today. And, best of luck. You're really getting out there and getting started. Great. Congratulations on getting through the final parts of school. Congratulations on the podcast. And I'm going to be watching for a radio station that's owned by Sam Mitchell and that you're just rocking it and making the world a better place.